All right, welcome back to the New Equity Network Show. I'm your host, Michael Yorba, talking with David Duggan, CEO of ViralNetworkInc.com. All right, David, when we left off, you were talking about some sophisticated stuff. Not everybody knows about it. Some people who are very deep into the marketing, digital marketing sector know about it. But you're talking about tracking conversations that have to do with specific topics that are relative to the companies that are trying to reach out to their target market. I want to close that up, how you do that, and then get into, because when you're doing that, you have to be SEC compliant while using social media. Can you open that up for me?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is part of my point about what's relevant in the social media world. A lot of people are very stuck up on getting as many fans and followers as they possibly can on Facebook, Twitter, etc. But really, the holy grail of social media comes down to the amount of people you reach through social media. And if third-party people can achieve that for you, so whether it's an online blogger or it's a news person, a journalist, or just a social media account that's got a lot of followers, if those third-party accounts that have nothing to do with your company are spreading the word about your company for you, that's the holy grail of social media. And that's what social media is all about. Yes, it's great to have people who follow you and are fans and followers on social media, but I've seen a number of cases where a public company has a very little following, actual people who are following them on social media, but their news release went viral in a sense, and somehow almost 1 million people saw their news release because just a handful, maybe 25 to 40 people shared their news via their social media channels. And because those individuals had a very large following, they got a great amount of exposure. So in order to find those people, you have to have some powerful software, and we call it our social listening tool. So if we're going to track, right now we do the top 40 biotech stocks, top 40 gold, silver, etc., and we track anyone who's mentioning those stocks across North America. We can go overseas if we need to. But usually it's a lot of people. On a weekly basis, there's going to be roughly 3,000 to 5,000 people mentioning those top 40 stocks across every online platform. So it's a lot of people to try and figure out who to go after and who to introduce a story to. So we have something built in that allows us to filter based on influence, which means if we only want to see people or social media accounts that have more than 10,000 followers, we just click a button, and all of a sudden the 3,000 to 5,000 people go away, and we're only left with about 150 to 200 people. So those people are the ones we want to introduce to the story, tell them everything what's going on, and then when we have a news release, share it with them, and if they retweet it or share it to their social network, you know that at least 10,000 people have access to it and have the ability to see it. So it's tremendous distribution, and sometimes that influential person doesn't even need to be following the corporate accounts. So you get mass exposure that is in an untraditional way.
I would imagine. Let me jump in there for a second. I would imagine that the messaging is really critical because you've got to be disruptive, you've got to get their attention, and you've got to make them want to participate in the process of telling everybody else about this. Isn't that another critical part of this?
Absolutely. And if you look at what most people talk about online, or if someone's in a position of being an influencer, they want to cover either achievements or failures, to be honest.
Right.
They got to cover something that's new. So if they don't know the fundamental story about what the company is doing or is striving for, then it's really difficult for them to cover a news release because they don't know if that's good. So it's really important to always have that in mind, that any person who's online that doesn't know the story yet needs to understand the basics, the fundamental story, and that's why we put these landing pages together. Mm-hmm. So that influential person knows the basics first, and then they see the company actually achieving what they were going for and announcing news releases that are, getting them closer to their goal. That's what entices these influential people to share the content because, yes, it's engaging and it's impressive that, not many companies out there are achieving everything they said. So as soon as that starts to happen, you see all these third-party people that you never even knew were interested in the story to start helping to get the word out. So definitely it works that way.
All right. Now, there's a lot of landmines in a publicly traded company. You've got to be very careful about your messaging. You can't do a lot of things. How do you remain SEC compliant while using social media effectively to get the right shareholders? I mean, that's what we're really talking about, customers and shareholders, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there was a lot of gray area surrounding social media for public companies for quite a few years, and we were sort of in the middle of a lot of that and trying to help drive what you should or shouldn't be able to do. And regulation-free disclosure has been what regulates public companies for quite a while. And until there is very definitive laws that apply just to social media, for now, regulation-free disclosure is what applies to public companies and regulates social media. So it's a very simple concept. What they're trying to avoid is information getting out to the public in one form that doesn't get out in another form. So regulation-free disclosure, all it means is that whatever is a material change to the company or a news release-worthy event needs to go out the same way to everyone at the same time. So everyone's always been familiar with direct emails or websites and news releases. So the simplest way to stay SEC compliant is to treat your social media account the same way you treat your website. So whatever is postable on your website, whatever is okay to go out and be considered a public event, can also be posted on social media. So that's the number one simplest way to manage social media is forget trying to do too much. Just look at it as an extension of your website and an extension of your email list. And that's one of the ways to stay compliant. And the biggest second thing is to avoid opinions or to avoid posting content that you might think is positive because, it's a third-party article that talks about you in a great way. But if you post a third-party article that has an opinion in it, then you have to post all third-party articles with all opinions. So our advice is usually just to stay away from anything opinion-based. Of course, industry information about, if you're a gold company, you can put out information about gold because it's relevant to everyone. But opinions about specific companies or your company, we try to avoid that.
All right. How do you know when you've succeeded doing a good job on social media? What are the metrics there? How do you break that up? It's not like you said in the beginning. It's not just everybody that you're getting a huge group. You're really looking for a conversion. How do you know when you succeeded in whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or so on?
Yeah, that's a good point because I know there's a lot of misconception out there, and some companies have been told that the more fans and followers you have, the better. So they're trying to get hundreds of thousands of followers. But, when we're dealing with potential investors or current shareholders, it just simply isn't that large of a database. So, with all the data that we have at our disposal at Viral Network, we've done some research, and it appears that the average amount of followers that a really good company has is only roughly 3,000 to 5,000. It's a decently large number, but it's a lot smaller than what a lot of people have in their minds.
Yeah.
And that's usually a combination of existing shareholders, news people, hopefully some influencers, and then maybe some potential shareholders. So, to get the idea out of their mind that you're trying to get tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers is not relevant. 3,000 to 5,000 across Facebook and then also on Twitter is the norm, and anything over 1,000 is considered you're doing a good job. But don't be discouraged. Anything over 200 is still a good start. But the biggest way to tell if you're doing good or a great job in the social media world is to be able to track how many people are talking about you on their own. So yes, it's great to have an audience and have followers and fans, but if you're able to track the third-party coverage, so how many other Twitter people or people in blogs and chat rooms are covering the story, and how many views or what kind of reach did those conversations get? So it's amazing for us to see. We have case study after case study where we do an online search to see what kind of online coverage there is around a company, and maybe there's only a couple posts over the course of the month, and that maybe is seen by a few hundred people. And then once the social world really starts to get aware of a story, and we're able to track total mentions, so over the course of a month, a good amount of total mentions from third-party people would be roughly 200 to 400. And if those total mentions lead to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of impressions or views, then you're doing a good job. So
David,
that's a new way to look at things.
I don't want to interrupt you, but we got a hard break. I want to thank you for being on the show, and we'll talk to you about more in-depth marketing knowledge next week, okay?
Sounds great. Appreciate it.
Thank you. David Duggan, CEO, ViralNetworkInc.com. Thanks for listening to the New Equity Network Show with Michael Yorba, 1160 AM KVCE, DFW's Business Authority. Talk to you tomorrow.